Hey everyone, how's it going? Fantastic, me too. Super excited to be here. We've got a little bit of information to cover in about 10 minutes. I have a couple of different takes. One thing I'm not going to do is stand up here and talk about my company for very long, mostly because it's kind of boring, and y'all know most of that anyway. I want to talk a little bit about how a lot of these technologies are beginning to come together, right? There's not many technology areas where they don't fall, not victim, but the application of the different types of layers of technology to enable them come into play. And that comes into things like the connectivity layer, the hardware layer, and then the compute layer, intelligence layer, and then finally the application layer and the interface layer. And so as a function of the connectivity layer, 5G is rolling out as infrastructure, and we are now kind of waiting to see or helping to facilitate the building of new types of hardware, new types of experiences that take advantage of things like edge computing and whatnot. So just a quick overview. 5G is the fifth generation of wireless technology. It essentially is a reimagining of the network. All fiber using different types of spectrum. If anybody has any questions about this or any comments or anything, you can find me later. We're not going to spend a ton of time talking about it, but most of what we're going to be looking at as far as new experiences is going to sit either in that middle band, the 6 gigahertz, or the C band. You might have heard it called that, or up in the high band, right? These are the things that really facilitate multi-gigabit per second experiences. And so I want to talk real quick about what NFTs are in the first place. So there's a lot of talk here about art, right? And people are referring to the art as NFTs, but essentially, and we all kind of know this, I'm not talking about anything new here, I'm just reframing it in a certain way. We're talking about digital property rights, right? And so when we talk about like my home, I don't say, do you want to come over to my deed later? Because I have a deed to my house, but that's not really what I'm talking about. Now, I think that NFTs have come a really long way or they have helped the digital art space come a very long way. Probably decades of acceleration. I have a niece who's 16, and she's an amazing artist, and she's starting to get into digital art now because of the ability to begin tokenizing it, right? And so as we are thinking about what NFTs are and what their future is, it's going to be interesting to think about how digital property rights are going to begin to evolve. Now, there are different, we're seeing that how immersive and experiential tokenized experiences are already beginning to take place. And it's not just a piece of art, it is facilitating new ways of experiential interaction, right? And so Cash Labs is a group that Verizon has worked with in the past. I even think they're here today. Is David in the room? No? And they had a multi-part experience where it was a combination of public art that was tokenized, and then several different types of experiences that built on top of that were essentially using tokenization as a form of trackable and traceable property rights. And I think that right now, we saw something a few minutes ago about holographic displays and about using those types of mediums, those type of hardware mediums, to begin to display those and eventually begin to interact with those types of things. And so I'm sure that we have talked about before, and I'm sure there's other panels that have talked about this, about how brands can begin to use NFTs and tokenization to bring more value to what they are delivering to their customers, right? And so a great example is a Birkin bag. If you're going to spend $30,000 on a Birkin bag, you're doing it not necessarily because it's the best bag in the world, but because it's a statement piece, right? It's a lifestyle piece. And so if I own this Birkin bag, I can conceivably take it anywhere I go, right? I can sleep with it if I want to. But if I'm spending about 20% of my time now in the virtual space, whether that's augmented reality or virtual reality, I can't take that with me, right? And so does that bag then lose 20% of its value because I can no longer use it as a lifestyle statement, right? And so brands are beginning to get into into the practice of how do we start delivering value in these new spaces where our customers are spending time, right? And so we're starting to see how the idea of an official NFT, of something like a bag, can be a direct extension of a purchase that's made in the real world. And I think that's only going to continue to evolve and develop. And so we've done a little bit of this in the immersive space, starting to get involved in AR and VR. We've used the idea of avatars that can then be tokenized, autographs that are tokenized, and then merging them together and giving fans an ability to engage with the things that are important to them. This was done through a video game. We've done this also with The Walking Dead. And then Matt was up here talking about some tokenized interactions we did for Valentine's Day. But we're increasingly moving into this hybrid world, right? And so there's been a lot of talk about virtual reality and about the ability to take these tokenized assets into the VR space, but I think we're going to begin seeing more of this in the AR space. And I'm going to spend a little bit of time talking about that. Because people are already beginning to build AR art, especially in the public sphere. And so this is where I think that tokenization is going to merge with the rest of things like Web3, and things like cryptocurrency as well as smart contracts are going to be a lot more applicable in the augmented space. And so this is an example of a piece of art that was like geotagged in, or like geo-anchored in front of the National Arts Club in New York City. Has anybody been to the National Arts Club in New York City? Some pretty cool stuff. They have an art and technology committee that does some pretty cool things, and this was part of that. So I'm going to paint a picture real quick. This is something that we commissioned. I'm a member of the National Arts Club. We commissioned this, and we wanted it to be there. We wanted it to be stationary. We wanted it to be kind of interactive like that, right? So we asked for it to be there. Now assume that we didn't. Okay? Assume that we didn't, and somebody wanted to come in and they wanted to build this geo-anchored piece of AR art that was sitting in front of a space that somebody owns. Like somebody owns this building, right? And let's say they used a medium that was fairly popular, like something like Snap. And so anyone who had the Snap goggles or had the Snap application could turn this on, could scan a QR, do whatever, and they could access this art. Now, what if the owner of that building didn't know about it? What if they found out about it and it was this? Would they care? Probably not, right? Sure, it's a piece of art. It's on there. Only people with this one particular application can actually access it. It's not really that important. What about that? Now, I'm not making any statements about leaning left or leaning right or political affiliations, but what if that was on top of someone's actual property? Would they care then? I think they might. Now, I'm from Texas. Now, when you buy a piece of land, that land, your property rights to that land go all the way to the center of the earth, and they go all the way up into space. And if anybody wants to put anything on your land in that Z-plane, they have to get your permission. And in many cases, they have to pay you for it. So the question then is, do the rights of physical property extend into the virtual world? And I think they do, and I think they will. And right now, there's not a whole lot of legal infrastructure around this yet, but there will be. And so I think that tokenization and NFTs, combined with things like smart contracts and crypto transactions, will enable the function of the merger of the virtual and the physical worlds, especially as new types of hardware technology evolve in order to facilitate that. So at Verizon, we are looking for partners who want to help facilitate interactive, immersive types of experiences using NFTs. I've already mentioned a couple of things we've done already. If you're interested in working with us, we've done some around like rewards, but we're really trying to figure out, to work with some partners to get into some more immersive engagement types of experiences. So if you want to talk to me more about that, I'll be in the back here. Thank you very much for having me. Really appreciate it.